Welcome back to our channel, where we gather to discuss the intricate, ever-evolving drama of Port Charles. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the latest mysteries and shocking revelations of General Hospital. For those of us who have spent decades inviting these complex characters into our living rooms, the recent twists have been nothing short of breathtaking. Let us settle in and explore the shadows lurking behind the closed doors of our beloved town, analyzing the sheer brilliance and terror of the current storylines. For longtime viewers of General Hospital, those of us who have watched the spools of Port Charles unravel over the decades, we have seen our fair share of villains, masterminds, and tragic heroes. We remember the days of weather machines and mob wars, of secret twins and miraculous resurrections. Yet nothing could have prepared us for the profound psychological darkness of the current storyline surrounding Willow Kane. Watching Willow's evolution, or rather her devolution, has been a masterclass in character assassination and rebirth. We once knew her as a pure-hearted former cult member, a dedicated teacher, and a compassionate nurse. Today, she stands before us as a newly minted, ruthless congresswoman, hiding a secret so vile it chills the blood. The writers have taken a character defined by her innocence and twisted her into a cornered predator, and the execution is as mesmerizing as it is horrifying. As a literary critic of this medium, I find myself utterly captivated by this bold narrative choice, even as it breaks the hearts of those who remember the gentle woman she used to be. The immediate crisis at hand is the introduction of a dangerous wild card, Kai. In the claustrophobic world of daytime drama, secrets are the currency of survival, and Kai has just stumbled upon a fortune. He has discovered something highly unusual, an anomaly that points directly toward the horrific truth about Drew Kane's condition. This discovery places Kai in a position of immense power and terrible danger. Willow, realizing that her entire house of cards is trembling, is faced with a desperate choice. We are watching a woman who is terrified of her own actions being brought to light, and this fear is driving her to consider bribing Kai comprehensively. Can she buy his silence? In Port Charles, loyalty is often up for the highest bidder, but the sheer magnitude of Willow's crime might be too heavy a burden for any amount of hush money. I ask you, fellow viewers, how long can a secret of this magnitude remain buried when so many loose threads are beginning to unravel? To understand the gravity of Kai's discovery, we must confront the nightmare that is Drew Kane's current existence. Drew is trapped in a state of locked-in syndrome, a medical prison where his mind is fully alert, but his body is completely paralyzed. He cannot move, he cannot speak, he cannot eat, and he cannot communicate his agony. For a man who has always been defined by his physical capability and his active presence in the lives of his loved ones, this condition is a fate worse than death. But the true horror lies not just in his physical entrapment, but in his psychological torture. Drew knows the truth. He knows that his loving wife, the esteemed Congresswoman Willow Kane, is the architect of his suffering. He knows that she is the one who coldly and calculatedly shot him twice in the back. Imagine the sheer terror of lying in that wheelchair, completely vulnerable, watching the woman who tried to murder you play the role of the devoted caregiver. It is a scenario ripped from the pages of a gothic thriller, and it elevates General Hospital into the realm of high-stakes psychological horror. The revelation that Willow herself pulled the trigger is a monumental shift in the show's landscape. We must ask ourselves what drives a person to such extremes. Willow's desperate need to maintain control over her life, her career, and her image has pushed her beyond the point of no return. By shooting her husband twice in the back, she crossed a moral event horizon. There is no redemption from this act, only the frantic, exhausting effort to cover it up. Drew's paralysis was not a tragic accident. It was a calculated measure to silence him. But keeping a man in a medically induced state of paralysis requires resources, leverage, and a steady supply of illicit pharmaceuticals. Willow thought she had all her bases covered. She thought she had the perfect blackmail material to keep the necessary parties in line and ensure Drew's permanent silence. This brings us to the fascinating geopolitical espionage angle of this storyline involving Jack Brennan and the World Security Bureau. Willow had been promised crucial blackmail evidence by Brennan, files that were safely stored in his WSB black box. This evidence was her insurance policy, her get-out-of-jail-free card, designed to protect her from the fallout of her monstrous actions. But in a twist of fate that soap opera fans know all too well, the best-laid plans often go awry. Brennan, recovering from his own locked-in state, was vulnerable, and his office was taken over by none other than WSB Director Ross Cullum. Cullum's intervention is a brilliant narrative stroke. By seizing the office, Cullum inadvertently, or perhaps intentionally, caused the black box and all its precious files to vanish. Just like that, Willow's safety net was obliterated. She is now flying blind, without the leverage she so desperately needs to maintain her fragile empire. The disappearance of the black box is only the beginning of Willow's compounding nightmares. The very mechanism of Drew's imprisonment, the paralytic drugs, is now in jeopardy. These highly specialized, dangerous narcotics were being supplied by Jen Sidwell. Sidwell is a terrifying figure in his own right, a man whose chaotic and vengeful nature makes him a dangerous ally. But now, Sidwell is detained, locked away, and unable to facilitate Willow's dark needs. The supply chain has been severed. For a viewer, this is a moment of delicious anticipation. We know that without those drugs, the paralysis will begin to fade. The unnatural hold Willow has over her husband's body is breaking. The medical reality is setting in. If you stop administering a paralytic, the patient will eventually wake up. And for Willow Kane, Drew waking up is the ultimate doomsday scenario. The ticking clock of Drew's recovery is the most compelling aspect of the upcoming episodes. The promotional footage for the week of July 13 to 17 has already sent shockwaves through the fandom. We see the subtle yet earth-shattering signs of returning motor function. A leg twitches. A hand, previously limp and lifeless, slowly clenches into a fist. That fist is a symbol of impending vengeance, a physical manifestation of Drew's silent fury finally finding an outlet. Every muscle spasm, every twitch of a nerve is a death knell for Willow's carefully constructed life. The tension is palpable. We are watching a time bomb slowly ticking down to zero, and Willow is standing right on top of it, desperately trying to freeze the timer. What exactly does Willow stand to lose if Drew regains his voice? The answer is absolutely everything. First, there is her newly minted career as a congresswoman. She has built a public persona of integrity, service, and moral fortitude. She sits in halls of power, making decisions for the public good, all while harboring the soul of an attempted murderer. The exposure of her crimes would not just end her political career, it would result in a spectacular, highly publicized downfall ending in a lifetime behind bars. But beyond the political ruin, there is a much deeper, more primal fear driving her the loss of her children. If the truth comes out, she will lose custody instantly. The courts, the public, and her family would view her as a monster. The maternal desperation to keep her family intact, twisted as it may be, is the dark fuel powering her current madness. Adding another layer of tragic complexity to this web of deceit is Harrison Chase. Chase, the dedicated detective, the man of unwavering moral compass, and the man Willow secretly still loves. Her feelings for Chase are a lingering ghost of the woman she used to be. She desperately craves his respect. She wants him to look at her and still see the pure, good-hearted woman he once cared for. The irony is staggering. She is committing unspeakable acts of cruelty to maintain an illusion of purity for a man whose very profession is to uncover the truth and punish the guilty. If Chase were to discover that the woman he respects shot her husband in the back and kept him chemically imprisoned, the revulsion in his eyes would destroy her more completely than any prison sentence. This unspoken, twisted romance adds a heartbreaking emotional stakes to the thriller narrative. So we arrive at the ultimate question, the philosophical core of this storyline. What does a cornered psychopath do when all avenues of escape are closed? Will Willow do the unthinkable? Let us not forget, she has already crossed the ultimate line. She shot Drew twice in the back. We cannot pretend that she is incapable of horrific violence. When Jen Sidwell recently suggested they simply eliminate Drew due to the drug shortage, Willow looked terrified. But was that terror born of moral objection or simply the fear of getting caught? As longtime viewers, we know that a character who has tasted the dark side rarely turns back when their survival is on the line. If she is pushed to the absolute brink, she will undoubtedly consider finishing the job she started. However, murder is messy, and a dead Congresswoman's husband invites endless scrutiny. Willow is cunning, and she may not need to resort to outright murder if she can find a chemical alternative. This is where her past comes back to haunt the narrative in a brilliant way. Willow used to be a nurse. She possesses the medical knowledge, the pharmacological understanding, and the clinical detachment necessary to solve this problem. If the specific paralytic supplied by Cullum and Sidwell is no longer available, she has the expertise to synthesize or procure a replacement. We are likely about to witness Willow utilizing her nursing skills not to heal, but to harm. She will search for a new drug cocktail, something that can induce a permanent, untraceable coma, buying her the time and silence she needs. In conclusion, this storyline is a triumphant return to the high-stakes, emotionally devastating drama that made General Hospital a cultural touchstone. It challenges us to look at a beloved character and recognize the monster she has become. It forces us to sit in the uncomfortable silence with Drew, feeling his rage and helplessness. As we look toward the coming weeks, we must brace ourselves for the inevitable collision of Willow's desperate ambition and Drew's awakening vengeance. Will her medical knowledge save her, or will Kai's discovery and Drew's clenching fist bring her empire of lies crashing down? One thing is certain, Port Charles will never be the same, and we will be watching every agonizing, thrilling second of it.